Ariel Monroe should have walked out of that building the second she saw the security guards closing in. Instead, she froze, one hand on her bag, the other on her stomach, knowing any wrong move would put her unborn babies at risk. And here's the part that'll make you stop and breathe for a second. She didn't even know who was framing her, or why. Not yet. If you're watching this right now, pause. Tell me what city you're watching from and what time it is there. I want to see how many of us are here in this moment together. And listen, if something like this ever happened in your town, you'd want to know first. So subscribe before the next twist hits. Don't get caught off guard. Ariel didn't see the danger coming. Most people don't. But let's rewind to the moment everything changed. Ariel Monroe sat alone at a round casino bar in Las Vegas, shoulders tight, eyes glassy, trying to pretend the world wasn't collapsing under her feet. The neon lights painted her face in pink and gold, but nothing could hide the exhaustion she carried. Her phone kept vibrating, each notification dragging her deeper into a panic she couldn't show. Another message from the hospital. Another update she wasn't ready to read. She'd flown here for a work conference she never wanted. She wasn't supposed to drink, wasn't supposed to be in a place like this, wasn't supposed to feel this lost. But rules meant nothing after the call she got that morning. Elijah's treatment was denied again. Time was running out. And no matter how many extra shifts she worked, the debt grew faster than she could breathe. Her hand shook around her glass. She wasn't drinking for fun. She was drowning quietly. Behind her, a group of tourists laughed too loudly. Slot machines exploded with noise. Somewhere across the room, someone won 50 grand and screamed like it saved their life. But for Ariel, Vegas felt more like a waiting room for people trying not to fall apart. She checked her phone again. Still no response from Elijah's doctor. Still no miracle. She whispered to herself that she shouldn't be here, that she should sleep, that she should return to her hotel room and figure out a plan. But she didn't move. Not yet. He appeared like someone stepping out of a storm. Tall, underdressed for Vegas, hair slightly undone, eyes carrying the same heaviness she felt in her bones. He wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. He just looked tired. The kind of tired that doesn't come from travel, but from life. He sat one seat away from her, didn't look at her, didn't order a drink right away. Just breathed out like he'd been holding the world on his shoulders. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The space between them felt like a quiet pocket inside the chaos of the casino. Two strangers pretending they weren't falling apart at the same time. He finally ordered something simple. Whiskey. No ice. A voice rough around the edges, like he'd spent the night arguing with ghosts. Ariel didn't mean to look at him. But something about him pulled her attention. The tension in his jaw, the restless movement of his fingers, the way he kept glancing at the exit like someone might walk in and ruin everything. Two people at the edge of their limits. Two people trying to hold themselves together. Two people life had cornered on the same night. The bartender walked away, leaving the low hum of machines and distant yelling to fill the space. Then he spoke, barely above a whisper. "You look like you're having the kind of day that hurts to talk about." Ariel didn't answer right away. She didn't know him. She shouldn't tell him anything. She wasn't the type to open up to strangers, but she was too tired to lie. And somehow, he looked like he understood without needing to ask for details. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The casino lights flickered. Her phone vibrated again. His drink finally arrived. Two separate lives, one moment pulling them into the same orbit. Morning light in Atlanta was softer than the neon glare of Las Vegas, but it did nothing to calm Ariel Monroe. She moved through her apartment as if the floor might break under her feet. Every sound, her keys dropping, the faucet dripping, the hum of the refrigerator, felt sharper, louder, more intrusive than usual. She had returned from Vegas 2 days earlier with a headache, a spinning mind, and a silence she couldn't explain. The cufflink she found in her purse sat on her kitchen counter like a question she refused to ask. She hadn't told anyone about that night. She didn't even want to tell herself, but her body told a different story. She tried to ignore the nausea at first, blamed the lack of sleep, blamed the stress. blamed the impossible bills stacked on her dining table. But the nausea didn't care about excuses. It came back every morning. Same time, same sharp edge. This morning, it hit harder. Ariel sat on the bathroom floor, hands braced on the tiles, breathing slow and shallow. Panic built in her chest, the same way it did when the hospital sent those late-night denial emails about Elijah's treatment. Something was wrong. Her body wasn't listening to her anymore. She grabbed her phone and checked the date, checked her calendar, checked again. Her heart dropped. She whispered, "No, no, not now." But the universe didn't negotiate. She drove to the clinic with her hood up, her hands shaking on the steering wheel, her mind flipping through every impossible scenario. She told herself she was overreacting. She told herself stress did strange things to the body. She told herself the Vegas night was a blur, not a life-changing mistake. But the dread in her stomach knew better. At the clinic, the air smelled like disinfectant and quiet panic. The nurse's smile felt too gentle for what Ariel feared was coming. A few tests, a few minutes, a silence that stretched too long. Then the doctor returned, holding a chart like it weighed more than it should. "Ariel, you're pregnant." Her breath caught. The room tilted slightly. She waited for the rest, the part she wasn't ready for. "And it looks like you're carrying three. Triplets." Her world didn't just change, it detonated. Ariel pressed her hand to her stomach, stunned by a truth she didn't see coming. 3 heartbeats inside her, 3 lives depending on her, 3 reasons to fear the future and protect it at the same time. Her first thought wasn't about the man in Vegas. It wasn't even about the night she'd tried so hard to forget. Her first thought was Elijah. His treatment, his bills, his life depending on her. She couldn't afford 1 child, not even close. And now there were 3. The doctor kept talking. Something about nutrition, hospital referrals, high-risk precautions. But the words dissolved into background noise. Ariel stepped out of the clinic and sat in her car, hands trembling on the steering wheel. The city around her moved normally. Traffic lights changed. People crossed the street. Life went on. But hers shifted permanently. She whispered to no one, "What am I supposed to do?" Her phone buzzed. Another message from the hospital. More paperwork, more urgency. She swallowed hard and made her choice. She wouldn't look for him. Wouldn't chase a name she didn't know. Wouldn't depend on a stranger who disappeared before sunrise. This was her life now. Her responsibility. Her burden to carry alone. She drove home quietly, placed the cufflink back in the drawer, and closed it. The past stayed there. The future, however, had already arrived. The email arrived at 6:42 a.m., just as the sun pushed through the blinds of Ariel's apartment. She hadn't slept. The news from the clinic kept replaying in her mind. 3 heartbeats, 3 futures, 3 impossible responsibilities. But she shoved those thoughts aside when she read the subject line. Urgent. New assignment. Immediate travel required. Her department rarely used words like urgent. Never at dawn. Never with her name typed in all caps. Ariel opened the message. She'd been chosen to lead a forensic audit on a massive tech corporation preparing for a high-profile merger. The kind of case that could make or break reputations. The kind of case the company only trusted to analysts who never cracked. She wasn't in condition for this, but refusing wasn't an option. Her job covered Elijah's treatments. Losing it wasn't a risk she could take. The email ended with a single line that made her stomach twist. Report to Manhattan headquarters within 48 hours. Your presence is mandatory. Mandatory. Of course it was. 2 days later. Cold air slapped her face the moment she stepped out of the taxi. Steel towers rose on every side, sharp and intimidating. Manhattan had a way of reminding you exactly how small you were. Ariel adjusted her coat and walked toward the massive glass building where financial giants moved billions with a signature. She clutched her folder tightly, as if it could keep her grounded. Inside her, everything felt unsteady, emotionally, physically, mentally. The security guards checked her ID, scanning her up and down with the detached scrutiny of people trained to spot threats. She wasn't one. Not yet. The elevator ride to the 38th floor felt too smooth, too fast, as if she was being pulled towards something she wasn't prepared to face. Her reflection in the polished doors looked pale, eyes tired, lips pressed into a forced line of composure. She whispered to herself to breathe. The doors opened to a floor full of glass walls, expensive silence, and employees who walked like they had something to hide. The assistant waiting for her barely smiled. "You're the analyst from Atlanta? They've been expecting you." Expecting, watching, waiting. She followed the assistant down a long hallway lined with modern art that clearly cost millions. Each piece seemed placed strategically, abstract, sharp, unsettling. The assistant spoke again. "This audit is highly confidential. Only a handful of people know you're here." Ariel didn't like the way she said it, as if confidentiality wasn't protection, but warning. They reached a conference room, floor-to-ceiling windows, a long polished table, a city view that swallowed the horizon. "Your team will be in shortly," the assistant said before disappearing. Ariel set her folder down, exhaled slowly, and tried to steady herself. She reviewed preliminary documents, scanning financial patterns, mismatched entries, numbers that didn't behave. Something was wrong. Very wrong. King Tech Innovations, the company she was auditing, was one of the most powerful tech empires in the country. Billion-dollar deals, government contracts, global influence. But the deeper she looked, the more it felt like a house built on shifting sand. Fraud didn't just happen here. It hid in plain sight. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Ariel closed the file and straightened. More footsteps. 2 sets. 3. The door handle shifted. Her pulse jumped. This was her moment to prove she could hold her life together, even if everything inside her was falling apart. The team entered. Executives, consultants, board representatives. They nodded politely, shook her hand, introduced themselves one by one. But there was one chair still empty. The one at the head of the table. Ariel tried not to look at it. Tried not to wonder who would sit there. Tried not to think about the night in Vegas or the stranger who disappeared before sunrise. She reminded herself it didn't matter. That man was gone. That night didn't follow her here. The door opened again. A hush rippled through the room. Someone was walking in. A presence. A shift in air pressure that made everyone sit straighter. Ariel didn't lift her gaze. Not yet. Not with her heart beating too fast and her palms turning cold. The chair at the head of the table slid back. Someone took their seat. Their voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Let's begin." Ariel finally looked up, and the world around her stopped moving. The man in the head chair wasn't a stranger. He wasn't just the powerful voice that carried across the room. He wasn't just another executive with cold confidence and polished authority. He was the man from the casino bar. The man whose tired eyes mirrored her own that night. The man who disappeared before dawn. The man whose cufflink still sat buried in her drawer in Atlanta. He sat there now, steady, composed, unreadable, as if he hadn't shared a night that altered both their lives without either of them knowing it. Ariel's breath caught, sharp and quiet. He didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't acknowledge the avalanche of recognition crashing between them. He simply said, "We'll proceed with the auditor's preliminary findings." His voice was the same, low, rough, heavy with things unspoken. But he didn't look at her, not directly, not even once. She forced her expression into something neutral, flipping through her documents as if her heart wasn't trying to punch its way out of her chest. Around the table, board members and senior staff leaned forward, listening, taking notes, watching carefully. These were people who didn't miss details. People who measured everything: posture, breath, hesitation. Ariel kept her spine straight, kept her hands still, kept her voice even as she introduced herself and outlined the scope of the investigation. But inside, she felt the tremor of something dangerous, something that could destroy everything she'd tried to bury, something that could expose truths she wasn't ready to face or protect. He finally looked up, not at her, near her. A calculated, almost glance. He knew. He recognized her. He was pretending not to. Ariel swallowed hard and continued speaking, explaining the anomalies she'd found in the company's financials. Her words came out smooth, professional, calm, but her pulse thudded in her ears. She couldn't afford to be seen unraveling. Not here. Not now. Not in front of him. Across the table, one of the board members, an icy woman with sharp eyes, shifted her gaze between Ariel and the man at the head chair. Subtle, observant, suspicious. Ariel felt it immediately. The watchfulness. The quiet, calculating energy. The sense that someone in this room didn't trust her presence. She pressed forward with the audit summary, careful with every word. But the tension built like static electricity, humming beneath the surface. Then, without warning, his pen rolled off the table and hit the floor beside her chair. A harmless sound, a small accident. But when she leaned down at the same moment he did, their eyes met under the table's edge. Close, immediate, unavoidable. His expression cracked for half a second. Shock, recognition. A flicker of something darker, fear or regret. He recovered instantly, straightening before she could speak. Before she could even breathe. The room watched them. Ariel sat back up, face blank, hands folded, heart racing. He picked up a new pen without a word. The meeting continued as though nothing had happened, as though they weren't sharing the kind of secret that could end both their careers, as though their one night in Vegas hadn't followed them into the most dangerous room either of them had ever stepped into. When the meeting finally ended, chairs scraped back, papers shuffled, and executives filed out. But he stayed seated, waiting. Ariel gathered her documents, pretending not to feel the weight of his stare. She reached the door. His voice stopped her cold. A moment. Alone. The room emptied faster. Ariel turned slowly, pulse hammering, breath thin. He stood now, taller, colder, more controlled than the man she remembered, and walked toward her with a calmness that didn't match the fire in his eyes. The door clicked shut behind the last person, and in the silence that followed, everything they'd tried to ignore finally caught up with them. The last board member stepped out, and the door clicked shut with a quiet finality that made the room feel smaller. The city sprawled beyond the glass walls, but inside this boardroom, the air tightened. Ariel didn't move, neither did he. He took a slow breath, the kind people take when they're trying to steady themselves before something that can't be undone. He approached her. Not fast, not threatening, but with a deliberate stillness that made her pulse spike. They stood only a few feet apart. His voice broke the silence first. "You're from Atlanta." Not a question. Ariel forced her expression to stay neutral. "Yes. The company assigned me to this audit." He studied her face carefully, searching for something he wasn't sure he wanted to find. His posture was controlled, but his eyes, they weren't. They carried the weight of a truth he hadn't spoken yet. He stepped closer. "Ariel, look at me." She did. The space between them changed instantly, charged, tense, loaded with unspoken consequences. His jaw tightened with a hint of fear he didn't bother hiding. "Is it mine?" he asked quietly. There it was, the moment she'd hoped to avoid. The question she wasn't ready to answer. Ariel's fingers curled around the folder she held, knuckles white. Words caught in her throat. The room tilted slightly. Her vision blurred at the edges. Her body had been pushed too hard for too long. And this moment, this pressure, was the final weight. She tried to speak, tried to steady her breathing, tried to stand still. But her body betrayed her. Her knees buckled. He reached her before she hit the floor. His hands steadied her shoulders, one arm bracing her back, catching her with a mix of instinct and fear. "Ariel!" His voice cracked for the first time. She tried to pull away, tried to tell him she was fine, but a sharp wave of dizziness hit her like a shock. She gripped his sleeve, struggling to stay upright. And that's when it happened. Someone opened the door. It wasn't loud, just a soft click, but loud enough. A woman's voice froze mid-word. I didn't realize the room was still in use. Ariel lifted her head slowly, vision still adjusting. Standing in the doorway was Cassandra Holt, the board member whose eyes had lingered too long during the meeting, the one whose smile never reached her eyes. She stood there, observing the scene with surgical precision. Ariel leaning into him, his arm bracing her, their closeness impossible to misinterpret. Cassandra didn't gasp, didn't react with surprise. She simply watched, and in that moment, Ariel knew. This woman had been waiting for something like this. He straightened, helping Ariel back onto her feet, but keeping a careful distance now. Too careful. The kind that looked rehearsed. Cassandra finally spoke, her voice calm, too calm. "Is everything all right here?" Ariel opened her mouth, but no sound came out. He answered instead. She felt faint. "I was making sure she didn't fall." Cassandra's eyes flicked to Ariel's stomach, then back to her face. The look was quick, but not quick enough to miss. "Of course," she said softly. "We wouldn't want any accidents." The words weren't innocent, not a chance. She stepped aside. "Carry on." The door closed again. Silence reclaimed the room. But it wasn't the same silence. He moved closer once more, voice low and steady but carrying a tremor only she could hear. "Ariel, we need to talk. Somewhere private. Somewhere safe." Her breathing steadied slightly as she regained her balance. Before she could answer, a notification buzzed on her phone. She lifted it. One new email. No subject, no sender. Just one sentence. "You shouldn't have come here." She felt her blood run cold. He saw her reaction and stepped closer, eyes darkening with concern. "What is it?" She didn't answer. She just turned the phone so he could see, his jaw locked. Someone was watching her. Someone who knew she'd arrived. Someone who didn't want her in this building. The message on Ariel's phone stayed on the screen like a warning carved in stone. No sender. No trace. No explanation. Just the cold certainty that someone knew more about her arrival than she did. She locked the phone, swallowed hard, and tried to compose herself. But the tremor in her hands gave her away. He noticed. "We're leaving," he said quietly. Ariel didn't argue. She followed him out of the boardroom, aware of every pair of eyes in the hallway, some curious, some calculating, some pretending not to watch at all. Cassandra Holt was nowhere in sight, but her presence lingered like a shadow. They walked side by side, never touching, never looking at each other directly. The distance between their bodies was intentional, but the tension between them filled the entire hallway. When they reached a quiet corner near the elevators, he turned to her. "What happened to you after Vegas?" A question loaded with 1,000 more beneath it. Ariel kept her gaze low. "That night wasn't supposed to follow me here." He studied her face, struggling to remain composed. Something heavy sat behind his eyes. Fear, guilt, something darker. He opened his mouth to speak again, but the elevator doors slid open, and a group of employees stepped out, forcing him to step back. "Not here," he muttered. Ariel nodded. The elevator ride was silent. Too silent. The kind where everything feels staged. When the doors opened on the lobby floor, the cold January air slipped in through the rotating entrance doors. Ariel wrapped her coat tighter around herself. She felt the pressure in her chest again. The weight of the pregnancy, the weight of the audit, the weight of being watched. She stepped outside first. Across the country, in a sleek glass office overlooking Puget Sound, an assistant placed a thick folder on Cassandra Holt's desk. Cassandra didn't even open it at first. She ran her fingers along the spine, smiling slightly. "This is everything on her?" she asked. The assistant nodded. "Every address, every hospital visit, every financial record, even her cousin's situation." Cassandra finally opened the folder. Her eyes lit up. "She's perfect." Back home, Elijah lay in a hospital bed surrounded by the steady beeping of monitors. A nurse replaced his IV bag while he stared at the small TV mounted to the wall. His smile was faint, but hopeful. "When's Ariel coming back?" he asked softly. "Soon," the nurse replied. "She's working hard for you." He nodded, unaware of the storm building miles away. His phone vibrated on the bedside table. A number he didn't recognize. A message he didn't expect. "Tell her to stop digging." He stared at it, confused. Ariel walked several blocks away from the headquarters to clear her mind. Her steps slowed as she passed a reflective office window and caught a glimpse of herself, drained, pale, trying too hard to act unaffected. Her phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't a threat. It was her bank. "Your card has been temporarily frozen due to suspicious activity." She stopped walking. Suspicious activity? She hadn't used the card since she arrived. Her pulse quickened. Another buzz. A second bank notification. Her savings. Frozen. A third. Her credit line. Suspended. Someone wasn't just watching her. Someone was isolating her. Closing her exits. Cutting her options. Backing her into a corner she didn't know existed 5 minutes ago. She took a step toward the curb, needing air. When a black car rolled slowly down the street. Not speeding. Not stopping. Just gliding. The windows were tinted darker than normal. Too dark. Ariel felt the chill before the realization hit. They weren't watching from a distance anymore. They were close. Too close. Her phone buzzed one last time. She lifted it with shaking fingers. One message. No sender. "Stop the audit or you won't make it home." Ariel's breath caught. The sounds of Manhattan blurred. The taxis, the chatter, the sirens in the distance. She looked instinctively over her shoulder. The black car had stopped at the end of the block, the engine idled, the driver invisible, the threat obvious. She backed away slowly, clutching her bag, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. Not enough to identify, just enough to terrify. Ariel didn't run. She walked fast, controlled, blending into the Manhattan crowd even as dread tightened around her ribs. The black car didn't move at first. It simply watched, waiting, as if reminding her that escape was not a real option anymore. She ducked into a crowded coffee shop, the doorbell jingling sharply behind her. The noise inside washed over her, a safe kind of chaos. Baristas yelling drink orders, steam hissing, conversations overlapping. Normal life. But normal didn't belong to her anymore. She found a seat in the back corner and opened her laptop. If someone was blocking her accounts, she needed answers, needed control, needed clarity. But the moment she logged into the company server to continue her audit, the spreadsheet that popped up made her blood run cold. Numbers that should never align, aligned perfectly. Transactions that should look messy, looked pristine. Patterns that should be unpredictable, repeated like someone had rehearsed them. Fraud didn't hide this cleanly. Fraud didn't look this neat. Fraud didn't feel this intentional. This wasn't someone stealing money. This was someone planting evidence. Ariel zoomed in on a line item, a monthly transfer that was too consistent, too precise. Her fingers hovered over the trackpad as she ran the numbers again. It was there. It had always been there. She had missed it the first time because it was designed to be missed. A synthetic financial trail, built to point in a single direction. Straight at the CEO. A chill raced down her spine. This wasn't just corporate crime. This was a setup. A slow-burning frame job years in the making. She typed notes quickly, her hands shaking. But halfway through her analysis, her laptop flickered. The cursor froze. A system error flashed. Then her screen went black. A second later, a line of text appeared. "Stop!" Ariel slammed the laptop shut, heart pounding. Someone was inside her system. Inside her audit. Inside her work. No analyst, no matter how talented, could fight someone with that level of access. The shop around her blurred as she tried to process what she'd just seen. Someone didn't want her looking deeper. Someone didn't want her connecting the dots. Someone powerful. Her phone buzzed, a New York number she didn't recognize. She hesitated, then answered. A voice whispered, shaking with fear. "Don't hang up." Ariel tightened her grip. "Who is this?" "I tried to warn you earlier," the voice said. "You weren't supposed to take this case." She swallowed. Why? Because everything you're auditing, it's staged. Every discrepancy, every error, they're not mistakes. They're fingerprints. Whose fingerprints? Ariel whispered. Silence. A breath. A tremor in the caller's voice. They want the company to fall. They want him out. And you... The voice cracked. You were chosen because you're clean, untouchable, ethical. They needed someone believable to confirm the fraud. The weight of the words crushed her chest. Someone had chosen her on purpose. Not because of her skill, but because of her vulnerability. Why call me now? Ariel whispered. Because they found out I contacted you. I don't have much time. A muffled sound, a door closing. Ariel, they're not just watching you. They're inside everything. They've been planning this for years. Her breath caught. Who is planning this? The voice trembled. It's... A loud crash cut through the phone. Glass breaking. A shout. A struggle. Then silence. A heartbeat later, the call ended. Ariel stared at the screen in horror. She dialed the number back, straight to voicemail. She stood abruptly, knocking her chair over. Someone had gotten to the whistleblower before he could finish the sentence. Someone who knew Ariel was listening. Someone who wanted the truth buried. She grabbed her bag and rushed out of the coffee shop. Manhattan's cold wind slapped against her face, but she barely felt it. Her phone buzzed again. A new message. No sender. No pretext. Just one line. You're next. Ariel stopped breathing. The street noise faded. People blurred around her. The only thing she saw was the reflection in the glossy cafe window. A dark figure stepping out of the black car now parked across the street. Someone was coming. Not tomorrow. Not eventually. Now. Ariel turned and ran. Ariel didn't stop running until she reached the back entrance of a hotel 2 blocks away. She slipped inside, blending with a crowd of tourists dragging suitcases toward the elevator banks. Her lungs burned, her stomach tightened, and her pulse thudded against her throat like a warning she couldn't silence. She pressed herself against a wall, trying to disappear into the noise. But her thoughts kept running ahead of her. Whoever was following her wasn't guessing. They knew her name, her movements, her bank accounts, her assignment, and somehow, they knew about Vegas. Next morning, Ariel sat on the edge of her hotel bed, staring at a printed copy of the whistleblower's earlier message. Every word circled, highlighted, dissected. The fear in his voice, the crash, the sudden silence. She folded the paper once, then again, then slipped it into her pocket. There was only one place left to go if she wanted answers. The city where this nightmare had started. Las Vegas. 14 hours later. The airport was loud, bright, and too familiar. Every flashing billboard, every ringtone, every echo from the slot machines twisted her stomach. The smell of cigarette smoke and perfume dragged her straight back to the night she tried so hard to forget. The night she met him. The night that changed everything. She walked through the casino floor slowly, scanning faces and corners. Nothing about it felt random anymore. Not the bar stool she chose. Not the empty chair beside her. Not the moment he walked in. She moved to the security desk, hoping for footage. Proof. Anything. The guard frowned at her badge and shook his head. There's no footage from that night. System crash. Ariel blinked. A crash? On that day? At that time? Yeah, the guard said, typing lazily on his keyboard. Server malfunction wiped a 4-hour window. Rare, but it happens. No, it didn't. Not like this. She asked for her hotel reservation records. Deleted. Corrupted. Technical issue, they said. She asked for her bar tab. No record. No receipt. As if she'd never been there. Ariel stepped back from the counter, her pulse rising again. Someone had scrubbed her entire Vegas night from existence. And that wasn't the worst part. When she stepped onto the casino staircase, she froze cold. Someone was watching her. A woman. Poised. Sharp. Standing by the roulette tables with a phone in hand. She wasn't a stranger. Cassandra Holt. smiling like Vegas belonged to her. Ariel's breath hitched. Cassandra shouldn't be here. She should be in Manhattan, in Seattle, in conference rooms, not lurking in a casino thousands of miles away. Ariel moved down the stairs slowly, as if approaching a predator. Cassandra didn't look away, didn't pretend it was coincidence, didn't offer a greeting. Only when Ariel reached the bottom step did Cassandra speak. "You came back," she said softly. Ariel's hands tightened around her bag. "Why are you here?" Cassandra took a step closer. "Because I knew you'd come. People always return to the place where things begin." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Ariel's voice thinned. "Did you follow me?" "No," Cassandra said. "You were expected." Ariel felt a chill cut straight through her spine. "Why?" she whispered. Cassandra's expression shifted, just slightly, as if she was pleased the question finally surfaced. "You weren't supposed to meet him that night," she said. Ariel's breath stopped. Cassandra continued, voice calm, almost gentle. "Your meeting wasn't an accident. It was arranged. Every detail, every moment." Ariel's pulse rattled through her body. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible." Cassandra tilted her head. "You think people like him get privacy? You think fate just conveniently placed the perfect woman at the bar beside him? Please." Ariel took one step back. Cassandra followed. "You were chosen, Ariel. Not because you were lucky. Because you were useful." The casino lights flickered above them, turning Cassandra's shadow long and sharp on the marble floor. Ariel swallowed. "Useful for what?" Cassandra's smile sharpened. "To break him." Ariel's stomach dropped. Her throat closed. Cassandra moved even closer, her perfume mixing with the metallic scent of slot machines and carpet cleaner. "Do you understand now?" she whispered. "He was never supposed to fall for you. You were supposed to be the evidence that destroyed him." Ariel's voice cracked. "Who arranged this?" Cassandra leaned in, her breath cold against Ariel's ear. "Someone far above me." A beat. Then, "Someone who has been watching both of you for years." Ariel felt the ground shift beneath her. Every noise in the casino dimmed. The air thickened. Cassandra stepped back, the conversation far from over, and as she walked away, she added, "And if you value your life, and the lives of the babies you're carrying, you'll stop asking questions." Ariel stood frozen under the neon light, heart pounding like a drum inside a cage. Her Vegas night wasn't reckless chance. It was a setup, designed, orchestrated, engineered down to the last detail. The reflection of Ariel's pale face staring back at her, surrounded by a city built on secrets. Seattle's skyline glowed under a sheet of silver clouds as the private jet touched down. Inside the cabin, he sat still, too still, hands steepled, eyes locked on the rain streaking down the window. Not a word spoken since takeoff, not a single breath wasted. Because now he knew. Ariel hadn't just shown up in Manhattan by coincidence. She had been placed in front of him, positioned, orchestrated. The same night in Vegas he had thought was an escape was actually a trap, but he didn't know by whom. And that made the situation more dangerous than it already was. The moment the jet door opened, his chief of staff, Marcus Reed, rushed forward, a folder tucked under his arm and tension carved into every line of his face. "You need to see this," Marcus said. They walked through the hangar, footsteps echoing off concrete and metal. Marcus opened the folder mid-stride. "Another anonymous complaint was filed against you," he said. "This time to the Gaming Commission. If these stick, the board can force an emergency vote." He flipped a page. Rows of evidence. Numbers manipulated to perfection. Evidence he didn't create. Evidence someone wanted pinned on him. He clenched his jaw. "Where did this come from?" Marcus shook his head. "Inside the company. Someone with access." The pattern was clear now. Someone was gutting King Tech from the inside. Someone trying to force him out before the merger finalized. They stepped into the executive elevator. The air was sharp with tension, each floor moving past like a countdown. Marcus lowered his voice. "You need to be careful. If the board turns, you won't get another chance to defend yourself. The elevator dinged. The doors opened, and there she was, Cassandra Holt, standing in the hallway like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. Her smile was thin, polite, controlled. "Welcome back," she said. His posture stiffened. "Why are you here?" Cassandra stepped closer, heels clicking softly on the polished floor. "Because the board is concerned. There are rumors about the auditor." Her eyes narrowed just enough to be a warning. "And your connection to her." He didn't flinch. "There is no connection." "Oh?" Cassandra lifted an eyebrow. "Strange, then, that she nearly fainted in your arms." Her voice dropped lower. "Careful. People are watching." Marcus stepped between them. "We have a meeting." Cassandra smiled again, turning to leave. But as she passed him, she whispered, "You can't protect her. Not from this. Not from what's coming." She disappeared around the corner, her presence lingering like a poison in the air. Ariel's hotel room. Ariel sat on the bed with her laptop open again. She had spent the entire night rechecking the financial data. Every pattern, every ledger entry, every transaction. The more she analyzed, the clearer it became. Someone was building a perfect crime. A crime that pointed directly at him. But it wasn't just him being framed anymore. The new entries, the new anomalies, they pointed to her too. She stared at the screen, shock rising like a tide she couldn't stop. Her identity was being woven into the fraud. Emails she had never written, access logs she had never used, spreadsheets she had never touched. Someone was stitching her into the conspiracy. Her phone buzzed. A voicemail. Unknown number. She hesitated, then pressed play. Static crackled, followed by a voice she recognized instantly. The whistleblower who had called her from Manhattan. Weak, pained, barely conscious. "Don't trust anyone. At King Tech." A wheeze. A cough. Then, "It's all connected. Vegas. The audit. Your cousin." The message cut off. Ariel's breath stopped. Her cousin? She replayed the message twice. Her mind raced faster than her heartbeat. Whoever framed the CEO, whoever scrubbed Vegas, whoever froze her accounts, whoever threatened her. They somehow knew about Elijah, her family, her responsibilities, her vulnerability. They had pulled her into this for a reason deeper than she understood. The pieces were falling together too fast, too violently. And then her phone buzzed again. A new message. No name. No number. One sentence. "He won't survive what comes next." Ariel felt the air disappear from her lungs. This wasn't about evidence anymore. This was personal. Someone had just threatened her cousin. King Tech headquarters. He entered the boardroom with Marcus behind him. The room was full. Executives, analysts, advisors, all wearing the same tight expression. Cassandra sat at the head of the table, in his chair. She folded her hands. "A motion has been brought forward to suspend your authority until the investigation is complete." His jaw tightened. Marcus's breath caught. The trap was closing. "On what grounds?" he demanded. Cassandra slid a folder toward him. The same forged evidence Ariel saw. Same dates, same perfect patterns. And at the bottom, a new signature. His, forged, flawless, impossible to disprove without the original files. And in the corner, a second forged signature. Ariel Monroe. His pulse stopped. They were framing both of them. Cassandra sat back, crossing her arms like a queen settling into her throne. "This isn't personal," she said. "But the two of you are liabilities, and liabilities must be removed." He didn't look away. "This isn't over." Cassandra smiled faintly. "Oh, but it is." No note, no message, just a folder. She opened it. Inside were photos. Her, Vegas, him, taken from angles no normal camera could reach. Someone had been watching them before they ever met. She whispered to the empty room. "What are you? What are you trying to do to us?" Her voice cracked. And that's when she heard footsteps outside her door. Slow, controlled, stopping right in front of her room. A shadow blocked the hallway light under the door. Someone was standing there, waiting. The shadow under Ariel's hotel door didn't move. Not forward, not backward. Just waited. Silent, patient, deliberate. Her breath came in shallow bursts. The room felt smaller. The walls too close, the air too still. She pressed a hand to her stomach, grounding herself despite the panic rising in her chest. Then, a soft flutter of paper sliding under the door, a single sheet, followed by footsteps walking away down the carpeted hall. Ariel stared at the crack beneath the door for a full 5 seconds before kneeling to pick up the paper. Her hands shook as she lifted it toward the light. One sentence, printed, clean, perfect. "You're running out of time." Ariel's stomach twisted. She folded the page, slipped it into her pocket, and backed away slowly, her mind racing. There was nowhere safe. Not in this hotel, not in Manhattan, not anywhere she could reach fast enough. Whoever was stalking her was close, confident, and unafraid. The room suddenly felt too quiet. Her laptop pinged. A new email. No subject line, no sender, just an attachment. Ariel hesitated, then clicked. Her screen filled with documents, dozens of them. Financial files, access logs, internal memos, all bearing her digital signature and the CEO's. Signatures neither of them ever made. The forged evidence Cassandra showed him in Seattle. They were framing her too. Her pulse hammered. She scrolled through the files, recognizing sections of her previous work spliced into fraudulent documents she'd never seen. Whoever orchestrated this was using her own expertise against her. A knock on the door shattered the silence. Sharp. Authoritative. Not the knock of someone hiding. Ariel froze. The knock came again. "Ms. Monroe, this is federal law enforcement. We need you to open the door." Every muscle in her body locked. Federal, here, now. She backed away instinctively. "Ms. Monroe," the voice repeated, harder this time. "We need to speak with you. Open the door." Ariel pressed herself against the far wall of the room, heart slamming against her ribs. This couldn't be happening. Not like this. Not when her name was stitched into crimes she didn't commit. Not when her cousin was hanging between life and death. Not when she was carrying 3 unborn children who didn't ask for any of this. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it blindly. A message. Unknown number. "Do not open that door." Her breath hitched. Another message came seconds later. "They're not here to help you." A sickening dread washed over her. The knock turned into pounding, then shouting. "Miss Monroe, open the door. This is your final warning." Ariel grabbed her bag, her coat, her laptop cord, anything she could carry. Another message appeared instantly. "Fire escape, now." She looked at the door, then at the window, then at the fire escape latch across the room. She didn't have time to think, didn't have the luxury of fear. She crossed the room, flipped the metal latch, and shoved the window open. Cold air rushed in, slicing across her face and arms. Below her, Manhattan traffic moved like nothing unusual was happening. She stepped onto the metal railing just as the hotel door behind her exploded inward with a crash. Ariel didn't look back. She climbed down the fire escape, each rung biting into her hands, the wind whipping her coat as voices shouted behind her. People on the street turned as she dropped to the pavement, stumbling once before catching herself. Her phone buzzed again. "Move. Don't speak to anyone. Don't look back." A black SUV sped past the hotel entrance. Agents spilled out, swarming the doors she had just escaped through. Ariel merged into the crowd, head down, heart pounding. Another message pinged. "They're coming after both of you now. The evidence is planted. The board believes it. And the person pulling the strings won't stop until you're both eliminated." She stopped walking, breath frozen. Her next message came immediately, like someone was watching her in real time. "You need to tell him the truth. Tonight." Ariel's hands clenched around her phone. The truth. About Vegas. About the pregnancy. About the conspiracy tangled around them both. Before she could move, her screen lit up again. A final message. If you don't tell him, Cassandra will. Ariel lifted her head slowly, scanning the city around her. The danger wasn't closing in. It was already here. Cassandra standing beside the CEO's office window, phone in hand, eyes glinting with triumph. She pressed send, and a new message appeared on his phone. Ask your auditor why she really came to Manhattan. Seattle's sky hung low and gray as he stared at the message Cassandra sent him. The words flashed like a threat across his screen. Ask your auditor why she really came to Manhattan. He lowered the phone slowly, feeling the ground shift beneath him. Cassandra had been circling him for weeks, but this message, this timing, wasn't random. She wanted him rattled, questioning, distracted. Marcus studied him from across the office. What did she say now? He didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, he turned toward the floor-to-ceiling window, hands clasped behind his back, jaw locked. The city stretched below him, but every inch of it felt smaller under Cassandra's shadow. He whispered, almost to himself. She's pushing toward something. Marcus frowned. We're running out of time. The board wants an emergency meeting with the regulators by tomorrow morning. They're making moves behind your back. He stayed silent, tension coiling through him. Marcus approached carefully. You should talk to the auditor, before Cassandra does. His jaw clenched. I know. Ariel walking into the lion's den. Ariel moved through the revolving doors of King Tech's Manhattan branch with her hood low and her breath held tight. Her muscles ached from running, her palms were raw from climbing the fire escape, and she hadn't slept in nearly 30 hours, but she didn't have time to fall apart. Security guards flanked the lobby with new intensity, checking badges, scanning faces, speaking into their radios. Corporate panic disguised as protocol. Ariel kept her face forward, hair tucked behind her ears, coat zipped to her throat. At the elevator, an employee glanced at her twice, confused, maybe suspicious. She stepped in anyway. As the doors closed, her reflection in the mirrored interior looked unfamiliar. Pale, haunted, older than yesterday. She whispered to herself, "Get this done, then get out." Cut to Seattle, King Tech Boardroom. Executives sat around the long polished table, eyes narrowed, voices low. Cassandra presided at the head like she'd already won. This company, she said smoothly, cannot move forward under a cloud of criminal suspicion, not with regulators closing in, not with the acquisition at risk. One board member cleared his throat. We've spoken to our legal team. The evidence against him is significant. And credible, Cassandra added. Another member shifted uncomfortably. But the auditor's report hasn't been completed. Cassandra cut him off. The auditor's involvement is precisely why we must proceed. She's already compromised. Compromised how? The man asked. Cassandra smiled slightly. You'll see. Cut to Manhattan. Ariel stepping off the elevator. The moment she entered the 38th floor, silence hit her like a wall. Employees stopped talking, screens dimmed, heads turned. Ariel kept walking, every instinct screaming that she was being watched, not by one person, but by an entire system weaponized against her. Her steps echoed as she entered the conference room. She placed her laptop on the table, her fingers steady despite the storm inside her. She began pulling up the fraud data again. Even after the hack attempts, even after the files were altered, she still had raw backups. Pieces of truth buried beneath the lies. She needed to expose whatever Cassandra was doing. But she needed to get out alive first. Her phone buzzed. A message. From him. We need to talk. Now. Ariel swallowed. She typed back. Where? A beat. Then. Executive floor. Room 412. She hesitated, then stood and slipped the laptop into her bag. Back in the boardroom. Marcus burst into the meeting mid-sentence, ignoring the stunned looks. We have a problem, he announced. The regulators aren't calling for an inquiry. Cassandra requested it herself. Every head snapped toward Cassandra. She didn't flinch. He slammed a stack of printed emails onto the table. And she submitted forged evidence, using administrative access she shouldn't have. Murmurs erupted. Chairs shifted. Eyes widened. Cassandra rose slowly. "Be very careful with accusations," she said coldly. Marcus stepped closer. "You don't want me to show them the access logs, or the security footage from your midnight visits to the server room." Her smile thinned, but she didn't back down. He glared at her. "You planned this." Cassandra leaned in slightly. "No, I executed it." A high-security door, frosted glass, a hallway too quiet. She knocked once. The door opened. He stood there, tense, sharp, exhausted. He closed the door behind her. No greetings, no pleasantries, no time for either. His voice was low, restrained. "I need to know everything." Ariel froze. The truth pressed against her ribs. The pregnancy, the danger, the surveillance, the threats. And for a moment she couldn't force the words out. He stepped closer. "Ariel, listen to me. Someone is trying to destroy both of us, and they used Vegas to do it. I need to hear it from you." She exhaled slowly. Then she told him. Everything. The night, the clinic, the triplets, the threats, the messages, the forged documents, the attack on the whistleblower, the shadow under her hotel door, the fire escape, Cassandra in Vegas. His expression changed with every sentence. Shock, anger, realization. When she finished, the room was silent. Then, he stepped back, breath shaking. "They're yours?" he whispered. Her throat tightened. "Yes." Before either of them could process what came next, the door exploded open. 2 federal agents stormed inside. "Both of you! Hands where we can see them!" Ariel gasped. He stared them down, and Cassandra Holt stepped into the doorway behind them, arms crossed, eyes glinting with victory. "You wanted the truth," she said softly. "Well, here it is." The trap had finally closed. The federal agents stepped forward, hands hovering over their belts, voices sharp and commanding. Cassandra Holt stood behind them like a conductor, orchestrating every second of the scene unfolding in front of her. Ariel didn't move. He didn't either. For a heartbeat, everything was suspended in air. The fear, the tension, the truth. Then the sprinkler system above them clicked. A soft click, a hiss. Not water, smoke. Gray mist filled the room with unnatural speed, curling through the air vents, swallowing the ceiling lights one by one. The agents coughed, staggered, grabbing at their throats. Cassandra froze. He grabbed Ariel's wrist. "Run!" They bolted through the emergency exit as alarms erupted through the building. The smoke filled the hallway behind them, and the agents' shouts grew faint. Down the stairwell, past 3 floors, breath tight, heart pounding. They burst into the alley behind the building, lungs burning in the cold air. A black SUV screeched to a stop beside them. The back door swings open. Marcus Reed sat inside. "Get in, now." The SUV sped through Manhattan traffic until the towers thinned and the skyline fell behind them. Ariel clung to the seat, trying to catch her breath. Marcus didn't speak until they reached an abandoned shipping yard, far from cameras, far from ears. Then he turned around. "You two were never the targets," he said quietly. Ariel frowned. "Then who was?" Marcus lifted a tablet, tapping the screen. Documents flashed by. Encrypted memos, sealed files, government seals. King Tech has been used for years to route money into political campaigns. Illegal money. Ariel's stomach dropped. "Who?" she whispered. Marcus swiped. A name filled the screen. Senator Elijah Langford. Ariel's heart stopped. Her cousin's hospital documents flashed next. His bills, his denied claims, his appeals, all stamped with the same insurance subcontractor. A subcontractor owned by Langford's shell company. Her pulse shattered. No, that can't." "It can," Marcus said. "And it did. He blocked your cousin's treatment to push you into the audit. They needed someone desperate. Someone they could manipulate." Her vision blurred. Langford wasn't just powerful. He was the architect. The one watching them before Vegas. The one who scrubbed the footage. The one who forged the evidence. The one who threatened her cousin. The one who planted Cassandra inside King Tech. Ariel whispered, "He planned everything." Marcus nodded. And Cassandra was only one of his tools. Lights blazed across the shipping yard. Unmarked cars, black SUVs, footsteps scattering on concrete. Ariel tensed, but Marcus didn't move. "Relax," he said. "These are federal investigators who actually want the truth." For the first time, real agents stepped into the open, not the ones Cassandra weaponized. They surrounded the SUV. One agent looked directly at Ariel. "We have everything we need, thanks to you." She blinked. "Me?" Marcus handed over a second tablet, this one containing the drives she recovered, the original logs, the codes she kept copies of, the unaltered data she refused to lose. "You were the only one clean enough to see the seams in his plan," Marcus said. "That made you the key piece." The legitimate agents turned to him next. "And you," the lead agent said to him, "were the only executive with enough clearance to pull the proof." Cassandra Holt was led out of a separate SUV, wrists cuffed, eyes wild as she struggled. "You fools don't understand," she snapped. "He'll come for you next. Langford." "We already have him," the agent interrupted. Cassandra froze. The agent held up a phone screen. Langford, in cuffs, being shoved into the back of a federal car. Her entire world collapsed in a single breath. Cassandra screamed as they dragged her away. Ariel watched her disappear. The architect, the conspiracy, the nightmare, all unraveling under the weight of evidence finally brought into the light. Weeks passed. The investigation expanded across cities. King Tech's board was purged. The merger halted. The company rebuilt from the inside out. Ariel testified quietly, firmly, without breaking. Her cousin Elijah received full treatment, the medical bills erased, the doctors no longer avoiding her calls. He recovered. Slowly, steadily. The chaos that once filled her life softened, replaced by something calmer, something real. In Seattle, he stepped down from the CEO position voluntarily, not in defeat, but in freedom. The weight of his family's company no longer dragging him into other people's wars. He moved into a quieter home on the edge of the city, away from headlines, far from the boardrooms where he'd nearly lost everything. Ariel sat in a hospital room bathed in warm morning light, exhaustion and relief mixing behind her eyes. 3 bassinets stood beside her bed. 3 tiny bodies wrapped in blankets. 3 soft breaths. 3 new lives that survived the storm. He stood near the window, watching them with a softness he never allowed himself to show before. Ariel whispered, "We made it." He nodded, voice quiet. "Because you never stopped fighting." She looked down at the babies, tears forming. The world felt different now. Lighter, safer, real. But as she leaned back into her pillows, a nurse entered with a small envelope. "No return address," the nurse said, "but they said it was important." Ariel frowned and opened it. Inside, a single cufflink, not his. Old, silver, marked with initials she didn't recognize. A slip of paper beneath it read, "You stopped one piece, not the whole game. I'll be seeing you." Ariel's breath froze. He stepped closer. "What is that?" She held the cufflink in her palm, fingers trembling. The story wasn't over, not even close.